We're going to do a little bit of a longer practice today. But before we get into that, um, I got a message the other day. Let me grab it real fast. So the first question is, something occurs. How can we respond without passing judgment? Right. And that's interesting because there's already a goal in the question, right? So my response was just be mindful of what is present, right? If judgment arises, be mindful of that. So it's not like I'm stressing about like, oh my goodness, how am I, like, I can sense stress occurring because there's an assessment of yourself of like not passing judgment on something or whatever it might be. Sometimes we do have to make a judgment on things, we make judgments and then we respond to the situation. Somebody constantly screaming at me or yelling at me, it's just not the type of energy that I'd like to be around. And I'm not looking for that type of energy to interact with. And so my judgment is, right, if that's considered a judgment, which it would be, right, I'm not interested in that type of energy. I'm not interested in that type of interaction. So what do? I take myself, if I can, away from that interaction, or I find ways of decreasing stimulation from that energy, whatever that energy is, right? Whether it's somebody yelling at you or something that happened in the supermarket or whatever it might be. And if we do pass judgment, for whatever that means, we just recognize what is coming up for us in the present moment. Judgment may arise, and that's what is arising. That's perfectly fine. And so with the practice of mindfulness, what happens is that you're just more mindful of what is arising and not so concerned, let's say, about how you're going to respond. Because even how am I going to respond? Oh, I need to respond good. Well, how is that? What is spontaneously arising now? It's neither good nor bad. It is what is. It is exactly what is occurring right now. Okay. So I think a lot of people kind of get caught up on this of like, oh, I need to, I'm a good person, or what I need to change my ways. And if you need to change your ways, that's a completely sort of different thing, but it's to recognize still what's coming up for you in the present moment. And what, almost asking yourself, what type of energy would you like to interact with? And so I found this little, from Jon Kabat-Zinn here, Mindfulness for Beginners, giving your life back to yourself. They have a stress reduction clinic. Jon Kabat-Zinn does a lot of the mindfulness-based stress reduction. In the stress reduction clinic, many of our patients say to us with great regularity that they feel that mindfulness training in the form of mindfulness-based stress reduction gave them back their lives, and they are grateful to us for it. We often point out that while that may be true to a degree, it is also true, perhaps even more true, that we didn't give them anything. Whatever benefits they received came from their own hard work with meditation practice, from the inspiration and support of the other people in their class, from their own willingness to engage in and sustain mindfulness practice as a discipline over time, and from the fact of their already being whole in the first place. The flowering of mindfulness in one's life is always more of a development and an integration of what is already here rather than an adding or subtracting of specific qualities. For our patients in the stress reduction class, mindfulness is not a nice little idea that you pull out every time you feel stress, nor is it a relaxation technique. It's not a technique at all. It is a way of being. And so that's really important because that which arises naturally, and just paying attention to us, paying attention to it, being mindful of it, is the practice, is a way of being. And we don't have to kind of get caught up, although we do quite frequently. We don't have to get caught up in the shoulds, woulds, coulds, etc., etc. Because there's a million shoulds. It could have been different. Had I turned left instead of right, had you done this, had we done that, should I have done this, should I have been born in a different body, should I have been born in a different country? So wholeness is present already. What we do when we identify with judgments or try to not judge or whatever it might be, even the attempt of not judging is still, oh, I judged, oh my God. How many times it's like you're in the practice of non-judging and then you realize that you're judging yourself because you just judged and you're trying to non-judge. So wholeness is there in the first place. And what we're trying to do, if there is a trying to do, is reconnecting, bringing that wholeness out, bringing that wholeness back, being more aware of that wholeness, connecting more frequently with that wholeness. And he goes, the curriculum is just this. So that's why I responded the way I did to that person. Well, what do I need to do? There's nothing that we need to do. Just be present of what's occurring in the present moment. Right? Because that's the curriculum. This moment is the curriculum. Not only is it always now, the curriculum of this adventure we call living, where mindfulness can play such a pivotal role, is always what is unfolding in this moment, whether we like what is happening or not. Okay, and that's the connection. That's sort of the key in essence. What is unfolding, and just allowing ourselves to rest in the natural unfoldment of what is actually unfolding, because that is what is unfolding, whether it's judgment or not judgment, or you need to give your attention to something or not, or you'd like it to be happening or not happening. Whatever is arising in this moment becomes the curriculum for liberating ourselves from the shackles of greed, hatred, and delusion. We do not need some ideal or romantic fairy tale of what would be best for us. What we most need is what is already given to us, the actuality of things as they are in the only moment we will ever have, this one. And the key to apprehending and comprehending what is happening, and for liberating ourselves from the momentum of our unconscious habits of mind, lies in whether we can catch the moment in which it first registers that whatever has arisen is pleasant if it is pleasant, or unpleasant if it is unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant. This is the basic and primary lens through which we apprehend any and every object of attention. It makes all the difference as to what happens in the very next moment in our mind and in our life, if we can be aware of this usually unconscious and automatic appraisal mechanism. That was a lot of words. But we have done this practice in the past. Some call them feeling tones. Neutral, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Instantaneously. We don't even separate it in our experience because it's so quick. Every moment that arises There's an appraisal put on that moment, which then informs the next moment and starts messing with our mind. There's an appraisal. So every single moment that arises in our experience, there's an appraisal of that moment. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. You're sitting here right now, you might be sensing whatever you're sensing, but every single thing, you're probably listening to what I'm saying. Unpleasant. Now, it's not to change everything, right? It's not that we need to go in there and say, "Oh, I want everything to be pleasant." Like that's now the greed desire, you know. I want jewels and fancy cars and nice clothes and all this stuff. The key, so he goes in, right? The key to apprehending and comprehending what is happening and for liberating ourselves from the momentum of our unconscious habits of the mind lies in whether we can catch the moment in which it first registers that whatever has arisen is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Can we catch that moment? Can we catch that moment? Oh, wow, look at that. That was really fast. I just heard a sound and my immediate thought was, that's an unpleasant sound. Or I just heard a bird chirp. Well, what a pleasant sound. Catching that moment that we're appraising the moment that is arising and noticing our mind's attachment to certain appraisals that we have. We catch that moment and we notice, okay, that's the ultimate judgment. As opposed to this moment just arising as it is, unfolding as it is. That's why he says the curriculum is just this. It takes all the difference as to what happens in the very next moment in our mind and in our life if we can be aware of this usually unconscious and automatic appraisal mechanism. Constantly undergoing. Got a phone call, got a text message. Oh, that was a good text. Oh, no, that wasn't a good. The definition of pleasant is what we desire our connection to the object of attention to be sustained, and we would suffer if it were curtailed. We want more of it, and we therefore can fall easily into greed in that moment if we do not simply note the present quality in awareness and let it rest at that. Oh, I noticed that had a pleasant quality. The definition of unpleasant is that which we desire the experience of this moment to end and would suffer if it were sustained. If we automatically fall into pushing it away or trying to shorten its duration, we have already fallen into aversion. The definition of neither pleasant nor unpleasant is that it has none of these attributes and is therefore hard to notice in the first place. When something is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, it is easy to ignore, and we can therefore easily fall into delusion, ignorance, and illusion in relationship to it. So mindfulness of the pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral quality, or any moment, is the key to not falling into the grip of greed, aversion, or delusion, or extracting ourselves rapidly when we do, as we inevitably will over and over again. Mindfulness applied at the moment of contact with a particular object of attention arising in our experience puts a momentary end to unnecessary suffering. Because the suffering resides neither in the unpleasant nor in the pleasantness, it is in the aversion and in the greed. It is in the clinging and the self-identification. All this can dissolve in a moment when awareness apprehends what is actually unfolding, like the soap bubble being touched by the finger. Liberation from suffering in that very moment. Liberation from greed, hatred, and delusion. Now for the next moment, which of course is this one. We notice, how do I do this without passing judgment? How do I, something just happened. I need to pay attention to it. How do I do it without passing judgment? Well, just in the question, there's a desire for the moment to be different than as it is going to be expressed in that moment. Allow that moment to just be expressed without any resistance. Notice the aversion or the attachment that you place onto each moment, moment to moment, moment to moment, moment to moment. Simply notice that and just allow it to be at the awareness of the aversion or the attachment. Oh, I really would like that sensation to change or disappear. I am averting that. I am wishing that to be changed as opposed to simply allowing it to be expressed. So this moment, right? That's why it's the curriculum is just as this, just this, just this, moment to moment, right? Moment to moment, moment to moment. Which moment? This moment. The now. The this moment. Okay. And then staying with Jon Kabat-Zinn again. At any moment, we're very close to home, much closer than we think. If we can simply realize the fullness of this moment, of this breath, we can find stillness and peace right here. So with that, we will go into our practice for today. Seeing if we can bring the, moment to moment, using our breath, putting it all together. Using our breath, breathing with our nose, slowing down our breath, noticing the appraisals, the moment-to-moment appraisals that occur spontaneously, that are almost unconscious, that it's like such a fast neuron that's firing, that when we start to bring awareness to that, we can start to lessen that attachment to things that are pleasant and aversion to things that are unpleasant. And simply, right, allowing this moment to unfold, noticing it, paying attention to it just as it is, and recognizing this moment as just this, which is nothing else. Okay, let's go on into our practice here. Okay, so let's find a comfortable posture. A posture you feel relaxed yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze. Taking 2 or 3 deep breaths and bringing yourself to the present moment. And bringing your attention to any anchor or resource that makes you feel safer to pay attention to. This can be your breath. This could be a mantra, a repetition of a word or phrase, an emotion, a felt sense in the body, your feet or hands making contact with whatever surface they're on. And as best you can, directing your attention to this anchor or resource. And as your mind wanders, simply recognizing the mind has wandered with no judgment, coming back to your anchor and resource. Mind wanders, coming back. Mind wanders, coming back. Mind wanders, coming back. And as you are directing your attention to your resource or anchor, noticing what arises in this moment. Can you simply allow it to be? Noticing the appraisal to the experience that is arising, that occurs spontaneously. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Maybe even noticing the attachment to pleasant experiences, the aversion to unpleasant experiences. Can you just pay attention to the appraisal? Notice how quickly it arises. As subtle as it might be. Is there a certain desire? A certain aversion to this moment as it's arising for you? Can you allow this moment to simply unfold? Just as it is. And recognize there's nothing we are searching for, that we are already whole. Can you notice the present moment arising? Can you be aware of any subtle appraisal that occurs spontaneously? Present, unpleasant, neutral, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Simply noticing it. There's nothing we need to change. Allowing the moment to unfold just as it is. Just this. In this moment, moment to moment, moment to moment. And just noticing where your attention is now. In the unfolding of the present moment. Being aware of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Allowing the moment to unfold just as it is. Allowing our attention to rest with each breath a new moment, each moment, moment to moment, just as it is. Now, taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. Connecting back in with your body. Feeling your feet on the ground or whatever surface they're on. Your hands in your lap. Your body breathing. Opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. Reorienting yourself to your room and surroundings. Stretching or moving if you need to stretch. And just taking a moment to reflect on your practice.